Hey guys, today I want to do a little video about OFWs and why are OFW Filipinos known as the best servers and best workers throughout the world. And they really are known as the best workers. If you talk to people that run ships or even the US Navy, you'll find that Filipinos are known as the best sailors around, but also they're known as the best servers, best nannies, best maids. They go out into the world and they take these jobs and they do them very, very well. And usually people that get to know their Filipino workers, they love their Filipino workers, the people that hire Filipinos to work in their home, like I said, as nannies, as nurses, as caregivers, or what have you. They're the best in the world. And you know, I remember when I was in the military, and I was a cook, so I worked around Filipinos quite often. And I remember that a lot of the officers used to love the Filipino workers that were cooks and everything. That it was like they were the best, and they always showed up the Americans. They always made the American cooks and stuff look bad because they were so good at what they did, and they did it fast. They were like boom, boom. They were on top of it, and it was almost like a thing where some of the other cooks would get jealous of the Filipino cooks, and you know they'd get pissed off a little bit, say, "Man, you guys need to slow down a little bit. You're making us look bad." Well, the reason for that is this, okay, is that when these guys were living in the Philippines, a lot of them were making almost nothing for money. And even though they went in the U.S. Navy or whatever, and they moved their way up through the ranks or whatever, and they got married, their money was still way more in the U.S. Navy than what they were making back home. So they would give the Navy their money's worth because they liked working in the military. They were there was something about the Filipino mentality that they were made for the military. They really are made for the military. When they get in there, they get really gung ho on that. If you notice that if you've ever met somebody that's a Filipino in the military, they were built for that. I'm not sure why, but they fit right into that, and they're all on it. I think part of it is, like I said, the money is one thing because they're making way more than they did back here in the Philippines when they go into the U.S. Navy or whatever. The money, gives them an incentive to work, because like over here, you walk in, like we were talking about the other day with the silent quitting, and the people that they just kind of like, they just give the bare basics to their job, like the people at McDonald's, the people at Burger King, they do their job and that's it. They don't making enough to be happy on it, so they don't really rush. They walk real slow to get the food. They don't care if there's a line going out the door. They could care less about that line. The manager won't put on any extra people. You ask for a napkin or something like that. I mean, you ask for some more napkins, and they come out with a napkin holder with one napkin in it. And these are some of the big chains too. I noticed, like the bigger chains that are American chains, they're Western chains, and they're over here, and they just don't treat you that well. But yet, if the OFWs, when people go overseas and they get more money, it lifts them up. It makes them want to work. It gives them the incentive to work. And they don't have that silent quitting thing where they just like, I don't want to work. I'm just going to put in my bare basics. And you get that from a lot of people. I notice here, we call it the cable company over here. And this goes with both the major cable companies out here. You call them up to put in cable for the expats here. We deal with this all the time. They'll put in one guy's cable, and they'll pull the plug on the other guy. So the other guy complains and goes out and he says, well, I didn't pull that one, but he hooked up the other cable into that one, it seems like, because the other guy got cut off the minute the other guys went on, the other guys went off. And they live right near each other. And this is something that happens quite often. And you call these people, and you let them know, and they're like, it wasn't us. We didn't do that. Well, it's still the same company, so you think that they would say, oh yeah, we'll get out there and we'll fix that right away. Rather than make an excuse or whatever, they would rather complain about, why? Because it's silent quitting, like we talked about. They just don't care. They don't have incentive because the pay is so low. They just don't care. And it happens quite often over here in the Philippines. And a lot of people, it's a turnoff to expats, a lot of expats. But something, we're still way better off over here in the long term because we have more time. It is kind of a hassle to do that, but once everything's hooked up and everything's good, once in a while, yeah, your internet will go down. You call up the company or whatever, and you complain, and they come out and they put it back on. We're lucky in one way that we have some connections inside these companies, and we can just call up and really quick. They usually come out. But we had this these new people just recently, and I wasn't very overly enthused with the way that they treated us, because we gave them a lot of business, and we can give them more business in the future. But they the way that they're handling it is, it's almost like I said with the silent quitting, where they just like, okay, and one of the guys made the mistake of tipping them in advance. And you never tip in advance. You tip after everything's hooked up and everything's done. And you tell them, say, look, if you do everything right, I'll tip you, but I want it hooked up today. I want it done today. And then usually they'll get it rolling and get it done, because they know that they're going to get a tip. Especially if you tell them how much the tip is going to be, whatever it may be, 300 pesos. They want that. They want to grab that. That's money, and it keeps them out of that silent quitting thing that they have in their head, where I'm just going to take my sweet time. If I have to finish this up tomorrow, I'll finish it up tomorrow. And the OFWs, like I said, when they go overseas, they have that incentive where the people here don't have it. They don't have that incentive here. It's kind of sad, actually, because, like I noticed that when a lot of the expats in my group, I wouldn't say that they overpay the people here. I'd say that they give them the incentive to work and do it right. Because I notice when you pay people here fairly decent, they're happy to do it. Not only are they happy to do it, they're happy to help you when you need some help, even for free. It's not, they're not just about the money. They also begin to have like a friendship with you. And you don't always have to pay them. They'll say, no, it's okay. It's okay. Because you took care of them so well before. They're thankful for that. And the OFWs are like that. If you're paying them a good wage, they're thankful for that. The nurses back in the U.S., the Filipino nurses, some of the Filipino nurses in some of the hospitals are known as the best nurses in the U.S. Say what you will, but they and they all get along and they work really, really hard. They put in a good day's work. Some people might say, well, the American nurses are better. When I was back home, I would say that the Filipino nurses were more helpful than some of the American nurses, because some of the American nurses were getting into the silent quitting thing. They, for whatever reason, and they were getting really damn good wages. They're getting really, really good wages, and yet they're into that silent quitting thing. Maybe it's because of their benefits, or maybe it's because of the way the hospital treats them. Maybe it's because they're getting too much taxes taken out. Whatever it is, this silent quitting thing is definitely starting to affect a lot of people all around the world. It's not just a United States thing. It's not just a Western thing. And, but yet with Filipinos, the Filipinos aren't as likely to do that when they leave this country and they come from a country where they've seen true poverty, and they go to a country like the U.S., they go to a country like Japan, or they go to Singapore, or they go to Kuwait or something like that, and they get more money. They have more incentive. Now, granted, some of the countries, they get mistreated a little bit, and that causes kind of silent quitting too on its own, in its own right. But I'm not talking about those kinds of countries. I'm talking more of the Western countries. When they get treated decent, they get treated okay, and they make more money, they're okay, because they've been mistreated before. Over here, because when you go to work here, the pay scale is barely anything. Think of going into work every day at McDonald's, let's say, and making $7 to $10 a day. And then you go to buy your meal at McDonald's, and I don't know if they give them a free meal or not here or not. I'm not sure. I haven't ever checked into that. Maybe they do get a free meal for working there during the day, or maybe they have to take their own meal. I'm not quite sure. But think if you had to pay for your own meal there, and you pay 200 and something pesos for a meal at McDonald's out of your wage, and then it leaves you with 150 pesos, and you have to go home and you have to buy food at home too, and pay for your place at home. Think about that. There's no incentive to really work hard over here for the wages that most Filipinos get. So when you come over here as an expat, what I do is I try to incentivize these people. I try to give them an incentive to work harder. When somebody's working for me, when somebody's doing something at the house here, you give them an incentive. Say, look, if you can get this done today and you get this up and working today, I'm going to give you a decent tip. So you let them know in advance, so that way they start working harder, versus going into the silent quitting where they go into the mode where they're going to be going real slow. You know, like if you have a maid or something like that, say, listen, you do a really, really good job today. You clean everything. I'm going to come back and I'm going to check it to make sure you did everything I wanted you to do, and tell them what you want exactly. And say, if all that stuff gets done and it's done right, I'll give you a little bit extra. It doesn't cost that much more out of your pocket. Even if you give them 100 or 200 more pesos a day, what is that out of Americans' pocket, or out of somebody from the UK or from Australia? It's nothing. It's nothing. It's a couple dollars more, and you're helping that poor person out. You're helping them to survive and do better. We're here and we represent our country. Let's represent it well and help these people, lift these people up a little bit, And it's not charity because they're working for it. Don't give them 200 pesos for nothing. Make them work for it. Make them feel better about themselves, because that way they'll say, I'm really worth more and this guy's paying me more. He makes me feel, they feel better about themselves, and they feel better about working for you because you're making them feel better about themselves. You're bringing them up. You're bringing these people up. Just like the OFWs, when they go overseas, they feel lifted up because they're getting more paid. They're getting paid better. And granted, it might only be $100 to $200 more a month compared to back here in the Philippines. But to them, that's a lot of money, and they can send money home to their kids. These people are the people, the OFWs go over and they keep their families running back here. They send money back for their kids, their grandparents, their parents. They're helping people out in their family. Some people dedicate their entire lives being an OFW and just sending all the money home. They never get married. They just go overseas for 20 years or something. They stay over there. They're happy doing what they're doing. And then when they come back, they figure they'll get married or whatever. And they're in their 40s or 30s or whatever. They put in 20 years overseas or 15 years or something like that of hard work. Some of the money they save and some of the monies they do with their families, But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. God bless, guys. Take care.